6:30, so we will call the meeting to order. Ms. Wilson, have we confirmed notice to the media? Oh, Ms. Wilson is not in the room.
She did.
Yes. She did, thank you. She was timing herself. She's going to be mad at me. I started 1 minute early. I apologize, Ms. Wilson. And I do declare that we have a quorum. We have all board members present. Mr. Patterson is with us virtually. Mr. Patterson, can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am, I can.
Okay, thank you. And now we will need approval of our agenda to move forward.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Thank you, Mr. Varner. Are there any questions? All those in favor of approving the agenda, please raise your hand. Mr. Patterson? Thank you. That's unanimous, Ms. Wilson. I do want to welcome everyone tonight. Appreciate you being here and joining us for the board meeting. And I do want to see, do we have any teacher cadets in our audience tonight? If you would stand up for us. Thank you. We appreciate you guys coming tonight. All right, and now this is something I'm excited that we're doing, and we're going to start allowing students to lead our Pledge of Allegiance at the board meeting. So tonight, from E.B. Morris, we have Juliana Hill and Bryson Butel. If you would come to the front. Is the mic on at the podium? Okay.
Please stand, at this time, please stand and join us in the pledge of allegiance to the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, you may now be seated.
Thank you so much. Okay, we will need approval for our minutes from the September 26th work session and the September 26th board meeting. Ms. Wilson did let me know there is one correction that she's made in the minutes since we've seen it, and that is that Fist Bump Friday was on September 16th, not February 16th as listed. So she has made that correction. So if we could get a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rawl. All in favor of approving the minutes? Well, is there any further discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes for the work session and the monthly meeting on September 26th, please raise your hand. Mr. Patterson? Thank you. It's unanimous. And we'll move forward now to our E.B. Morris Elementary School report with Dr. Jason Bailey.
Good evening, Madam
evening.
Chair, board members, district staff, and community members. My name is Dr. Jason Bailey, the principal of E.B. Morris Elementary School, and our motto this year is Watch Us Grow. I would like to briefly discuss our progress in providing world-class safety and a positive school culture, world-class instruction, world-class communication, and family engagement. Get the next slide. Oh, I got to click it. So, world-class safety and a positive school culture. Some of the things that we've implemented this year is we have a standard response protocol, which we're using in all our schools in the district and most of the nation. That's for our emergencies and drills. We have monthly inspections from a fire inspector sponsored through the district. We have Student of the Month and quarterly achievement celebrations. We have one coming up this Friday for our first quarter achievers and our Students of the Month. We also have a Mustang Power Character Education Plan, and that is an acronym that stands for Perseverance, ownership, worth, empathy, and regulation. And those are our touchstones, our core values that we will use throughout the school year and the coming school years as we build a stronger character ed program. We also have monthly staff off-site events. We just went this past month bowling in Greenville. And we also are doing positive phone calls home for both students and staff. Our assistant principal, Ms. Bigham, is calling the students mostly, and I'm also calling staff. So it's a real treat when you get to call a spouse or a significant other or a member of their family and tell them how well their family member is doing at school. So next we have world-class high-quality instruction. And one of the things that we're doing this year is we are all going through LETTERS training for our 5K through 3rd grade teachers and the leadership team. And LETTERS is an acronym that stands for Language Essentials of Teachers of Reading and Spelling. And that has really bolstered our kindergarten through 3rd grade classrooms. You can see it in the classrooms now with the science of reading and these specific strategies that we're using in bolstering our reading at our school. We also have weekly extended planning sessions on Thursdays. And so that is a time that our teachers are meeting with instructional coaches, and we're focusing on math and ELA specifically. And that is the time for us to, as a leadership team, to gauge plans and to provide feedback as needed. We're also doing informal walkthroughs and informal learning walks, and those are two totally different things. Walkthroughs are what we give when we give feedback to specific teachers, and our learning walks, that kind of plans our professional development. That's where we can pick up on instructional trends, both good and areas in which we need to improve throughout the building. We also are about to debut the Be a Champion World Series for our screening assessments, and that's for MAP and HMH, the benchmark assessments. And we do that so that our kids have ownership in their actual scores. And starting this coming week as well, we're also going to be meeting with kids and reminding them of their winter goals and their spring goals so that they have ownership in their learning. As far as world-class communication and family engagement, I do a Friday forecast every day on social media. Sometimes that is a video, sometimes it's just a post. But that's my way of letting the community know what we have coming up the next school week. We also have a monthly school newsletter. I give quite a few social media updates, and we've also started doing monthly Montessori community meetings, and we just had one this past Friday. And so we want to make sure that our Montessori community really has a family feel to it. So with all of that going on, what's on the horizon? What's also next for us? First, we are going to reintroduce our Raiders in Training Leadership Program, and that's something we did last year, but we want to be even more specific with it this year. Myself and Ms. Workman, who's a teacher at the school, we do the Raiders in Training, and what we're going to do is we are going to study the history of E.B. Morris for the first semester and some change, and then we're going to study the history of the LDHS High School. And so what we're trying to do is, in the name, we're trying to get kids ready for being Raiders and knowing about their community. We also are going to introduce a STEAM room, and we're really doing that to bolster our science instruction and the knowledge that our kids have of science. And we'll be doing that hopefully in November. And we also want to maintain and increase our growth on our South Carolina School Report Card. We had a 7-point increase this year, and we're aiming for another 7 to 11 points this coming year. And we also want to do some off-site family engagement activities. Oftentimes when families hear from us, unfortunately it's negative. So we want to meet them where they are in a non-threatening environment. We want to do some cookouts and just really get to know our community on a level other than reading levels or academics. So that is my report. I really thank you guys for taking time to listen to my report. Thank you, and I invite each of you to visit EB. Are there any questions at this time? All right, thank you so much.
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Bailey. We'll move on now to our superintendent's
somewhere,
report
Pete.
with Dr. Thomas.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, those in attendance, and those viewing online. This new year brings excitement and growth. It's hard to believe that we recently finished the first 9 weeks of the school year. Schools have worked diligently to build their community, set high expectations, focus on data and high-quality instruction, and set the year up in a positive way for staff and student success. We remain committed to our mission of empowering and inspiring all to be educated and informed. Our focus is on the main thing, which continues to be our students, as well as our goals to provide world-class safety and a positive school culture, provide world-class high-quality instruction to increase student achievement, and to provide world-class communication and family engagement. I'm very excited to share some of our district updates and the wonderful things happening in Lawrence County School District 55. Students in grades K through 5 participated in the Dreambox Math Challenge. These students were recognized during halftime on the field at the game on Friday, October the 21st. We had over 1,300 students who qualified for recognition. These students also received a Dreambox Math t-shirt. Congratulations to Gray Court Owens School, who had the highest percentage of winners and received the Dreambox Math Trophy. We're also very excited that based on participation in the middle college offerings at Lawrence District High School and their GPA, 7 of our seniors may qualify to attend Presbyterian College free of charge for years 3 and 4 of their college education. So they will graduate high school and then they will actually start at Presbyterian College as juniors. These students and their parents were invited to attend an event at Presbyterian College to receive more information and details about applying for the program. So this is such a great opportunity for these students, and we're so excited. And that's just a picture of the students who were able to attend, along with the president from Dr. Vandenberg from Presbyterian College, as well as Dr. Hope Rivers, president of Piedmont Technical College. As in previous years, we're continuing to recognize 2 staff members each month, 1 certified staff member and 1 support staff member. They are being recognized as Spirit of 55 award winners. The winners for October are for our support staff, Ms. Arve Jurgen, who's a custodian at E.B. Morse Elementary School, and our certified staff member is Ms. Carrie Gambriel, upper elementary Montessori teacher at E.B. Morse Elementary School. So congratulations to both of these very well-deserving individuals. We're also very proud of these students who made a perfect score on SC Pass. We have Elijah Laura, who's pictured from Lawrence Middle School, who is pictured with his science teacher, Ms. Chesney, and also William Turner from Lawrence Elementary School, who's not pictured. William has actually moved to another school, but congratulations to these students for their outstanding achievement. October is recognized as National Principals Month throughout the nation. We're fortunate in Lawrence 55 to have amazing principals who go above and beyond each day to impact the lives of our students. Our Commitment to Commencement event was held on October the 20th and was a successful event. It was exciting to have so many 9th graders in the district to be able to encourage them on their journey as we count down to graduation. They sign a pledge to work hard and do their best to be members of the class of 2026. Lawrence County School District 55 is partnering with Lawrence County Sheriff's Office and DHEC to kick off the Handle with Care initiative. This is an intervention that provides schools with a heads up that a child has been on scene during a traumatic event. Lawrence County Sheriff's Office will identify students at the scene, find out where they attend school, and communicate with the child's SRO. Other school staff who have direct contact with the child will be made aware that the child was on scene and needs to be handled with care. Staff will not be provided with the event details. Sheriff Reynolds noted that 1 in 4 children in school have experienced a traumatic event. but they still go to school and they carry on with their day, all while carrying the burden of what they witnessed. We're very appreciative of this partnership and the support as we provide what's best for the needs of our students. We do have some upcoming events and dates to remember. Please be reminded that on Monday, October the 31st, that is an early release day for all students in the district. Dismissal will be 2.5 hours early and lunch will be served. On Saturday, November the 5th, we will have our Lace Up for Literacy event. Additional information and registration link are available at our website at www.lawrence55.org. And then Tuesday, November the 8th, is a district holiday for Election Day. So I do want to remind everyone to remember to vote. The South Carolina Department of Education recently released the annual state report card. These are the first report cards to receive ratings since 2019. Each school received a rating in different areas, as well as an overall school rating. This is also the first year school climate has been included in the ratings. In addition, added value growth will be added in future accountability reports. I think it is important to note that when comparing data across districts, it is important to really attend to the trend data as well. We have analyzed data going back as far as 2017, and at that time, some of the neighboring districts that we're often compared to were higher to us even in 2017. Therefore, we continue to celebrate the growth, the progress, and the fact that we're moving in the right direction, while also working hard every day with a sense of urgency because we're by no means where we want to be. As acknowledged by the data reported by the South Carolina Department of Education data, we recognize and celebrated the following schools as the Superintendent Success Circle during recent instructional leadership meetings for their data in the following areas for the 21-22 school year. We celebrated Ms. Brandon Addy at Hickory Tavern Elementary School for the highest academic performance, which is reading and math. Also, Ms. Kim Penland at Gray Court Owens School for the highest EL progress, as well as Dr. Tina Faulkner at Lawrence District High School for the highest EL progress. We also celebrated for the highest access composite growth from 21 to 22, Dr. Jason Bailey at E.B. Morse Elementary School, as well as our highest student progress schools, which is growth, Ms. Kim Penland at Gray Court Middle School, Mr. Pharrell Thomas at Waterloo Elementary School, and Mr. Josh Dawkins at Sanders Middle School for the highest growth. Preparing for Success, which is SC Pass Science, Ms. Brandon Addy was recognized for Hickory Tavern Elementary and Middle School. And then for School Climate, Ms. Brandon Addy for Hickory Tavern Middle School and Mr. Lewis Compton for Lawrence Middle School. Thank you so much to these administrators, teachers, and staff for providing the hard work that was necessary to make gains and show progress. As noted before, the data showed that we grew at a faster rate in many areas than the state average. However, because of our starting point, it does not reflect where we need to be. While we celebrate the rebound of growth and progress of these schools in these specific areas, in the midst of the challenges brought about by living through the disruptions of a global pandemic, we emphasize and we stress that there is much work ahead. Let me say that again. As we celebrate the growth and the progress, we acknowledge that we are by no means where we want to be and that there's much work ahead in order for all of our students to reach our goals for students to be college and career ready. According to research noted in 2011 from Harvard Business School, celebrating the completion of small accomplishments leads to the completion of larger goals. The research indicated that it keeps you engaged and it helps you to remember that you're on a path headed in the right direction. Our brains are wired to respond to progress and rewards. With the simple practice of recording our progress, neurotransmitters release dopamine, which boosts motivation and signals the urgency to continue to work to improve. We are working with a sense of urgency, and we remain focused on our main thing, and that's the success of all of our students who are our inspiration and our why. We want every child in every classroom every day to have the opportunity to succeed. In an effort of continued transparency, just as we included all data charts in the September edition of the Times in 55, which is the publication that goes out to all parents, staff, and community, it is also posted on our website. We will once again include the data charts and information that will be shared by Dr. Penland on the school report card data in our Times in 55 for this month. We are a very data-driven district. We've had sessions to dig deeper into our data with our administrators, who in turn are doing this at the school level. They are discussing their data stories, and they are developing or revising their action plans for improvement. Administrators meet one-on-one weekly with district administrators to discuss data, solutions, instruction, and action steps. In an effort to keep data at the forefront and for continued transparency, data charts will be posted in all classrooms and throughout every school. These charts will remind us of our progress and the work needed to reach our goals. As you visit our schools, you will see that the data will be very prominent throughout our campuses. I would like to take this opportunity once again just to say thank you to our staff, teachers, administrators, parents, and students for their hard work. The release of the school report card is a great reminder of the work ahead and the tremendous opportunity and necessity for partnership and support from staff, parents, families, businesses, school board members, community leaders, and others to provide support and to learn what we can all do to work together and what they can do to help our students and schools as we work together for continuous improvement, so that we can provide opportunities for high-quality teaching and learning experiences that enable students to master 21st century skills that are aligned with the profile of a South Carolina graduate. As mentioned before, according to John Hattie's research, teachers are the single most important classroom factor in a child's learning achievement. Therefore, we have refocused our efforts as a district on the recruitment and retention of high-quality staff. We actually hosted an education career fair on October the 20th. Our Human Resources Department did a great job with organizing this event, as well as a C3, which is Coffee and Career Conversations. And during the C3 event, we targeted practicum students, student teachers, teacher cadets, and so the students were from various colleges and universities, as well as our cadets from our high school. And so this is definitely one of the attempts as we're looking at our recruitment and retention. And I am happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas. And now we will move forward, Dr. Thomas, for you to talk about the strategic plan.
At this time, I will present the latest revisions to our draft district strategic plan. You all have a copy of that I passed out prior to the meeting, and it's information that you all have received before as well. Our current strategic plan was presented to the board in 2018, and it goes through 2023. Since we are quickly approaching 2023, and because there have been changes in the administration, as well as some new board of trustees, we thought it would be appropriate to go through the process of updating the plan. We have asked different stakeholders, groups to provide feedback, including whole group, individual and small group sessions with board of trustees, as well as other members and stakeholders. In the current plan, we use the terminology of goals and objectives, and we've changed that to priorities and objectives. Through the updating and revision process, we will now, in the proposed section, have 4 priorities instead of 5, and those are strategic priority 1, instructional focus, student success and well-being. Lawrence County School District 55 will provide high-quality teaching and learning experiences that enable students to master 21st century skills that align to the profile of a South Carolina graduate. Strategic priority 2, recruitment, retention, and development of staff. Lawrence County School District 55 will strengthen recruitment and retention strategies and build capacity in the development of staff and leadership. Strategic priority 3, facilities and physical responsibility. Lawrence County School District 55 will use resources effectively to provide safe schools with innovative learning environments to support student readiness for college and careers while maintaining a strong physical position. And strategic priority 4, partnering for student growth. Lawrence County School District 55 will actively engage with parents and the community as partners in the education of all students. The 2019 through 23 plan has 5 goals. However, the proposed revised plan combines goals 3 and 5. You have, again, received this information previously, and you also have a copy at your seat of the current plan as well as the proposed revised plan with the suggested updates and revisions. And so the purpose of this section today is to really ask for input and direction from the board so that the district and school level administrative staff are able to move forward with creating work plans, determining metrics, crafting strategies that can help prepare our students for college and career readiness. So at this time, if there's any input or feedback or questions regarding the proposed strategic plan.
I will. My only comment would be in the objective section, maybe even further down. I'd really like to see some concrete targets. Empower, create, ensure, and provide, and focus are all kind of pretty soft, and maybe they're supposed to be. Somewhere, I think we need real quantitative measures that we need, so that anybody can look back and say, yes, we met that objective. These are all a little qualitative.
On the objectives for strategic priority number 1, previously our objectives included the terminology, challenge, and ensure mastery for all students. And it looks like that's been adjusted a little bit, and I know you've combined a couple of things here, but we're not using those terms anymore, and we're changing it to empower and support all student groups to meet growth and achievement goals. I kind of like the terminology challenge and mastery, but maybe to Mr. Varner's point, that's digging another step down possibly, so.
Through the process, the way, and these are not necessarily like 1.1 change to the new 1.1.
Right, yeah.
It was from the different sessions. We had a whole group session where we worked with principals. We also had principals together again for additional sessions, and other groups as well, teachers, support staff, and district staff. And so from that is where the terminology, from the feedback from the stakeholders, is where this came as far as the changes in the terminology, just from that feedback that we received.
From your perspective, what would be your reasoning to not want to use the terminology mastery
Well, it was definitely just trying to take the input and the feedback from the stakeholders who gave it,
From the group.
from the group. And so as far as, it wasn't anything personal as far as me changing it. It was a collective, all of the information. So it was just, and I cannot remember all of the conversations that happened with all of the different groups, as far as why they decided to reword a lot of the information. So a lot of them worked in separate groups to provide the feedback and information, and we took all of that to compile it into this document.
And I know we have on the agenda, board action if needed. Would you like board action on this document so you can continue your work with principals and kind of on down the line to at least make sure that everyone's agreeable here?
Well, definitely asking for input, feedback, and direction so that we are able to move forward. If it is that you want us to bring back a document to include the metrics prior, we're willing to do that as well. Definitely would like some direction so that we will know how to move forward.
Anyone else have any questions, comments?
You serve all the time, but the strategic priorities are spot on. I think we can solve it.
But you want them measured to a certain extent, because I know you like the numbers and you want, I don't know that you can do that at this point. I mean,
Well,
how would you?
No.
That would actually be kind of our next steps,
Right.
when we would work on the
I would
school and
think
district work
increments.
plans.
And then I could see them having some there and more increments, but.
Priorities sometimes don't have any metrics to them, objectives.
Right.
Getting around to some metrics, maybe it's the next level.
Well, unless there's any specific, rejection to any of these strategic, priorities, I would think from the board's perspective, you can continue to move forward.
Do we need board action on this, or we just continue the process? I'm not sure.
Definitely, if the board would like to take board action to approve this initial step, we will provide additional updates, as we continue to move along. That would be great.
Okay, we can do that. We would just need, a motion to move forward.
I'd like to make a motion that the superintendent, along with all the staff, continue to do updated meetings on strategic plan. I don't know how to put this because I don't see it, but that's fine. To move forward, updating the strategic plan as revised and stated in the handout here. Did you get that, Ms. Wilson? Thank you, ma'am.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to provide Dr. Thomas the leeway to continue moving forward with revising our strategic plan. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Mr. Patterson? Thank you. It was unanimous, Ms. Wilson.
Thank you. At this time, Dr. Penland will now present an overview of the data from our annual state report card.
Good evening.
Good evening.
In your packet, you received the overall ratings and the subset ratings for each one of our sections in the state report card. Last month, Ms. Abercrombie was able to go over a lot of data with you in reference to SC Ready, SC Pass, and some of our other data. So that in turn kind of gave you information subject-based. This kind of takes everything and kind of combines it all together, kind of like a GPA. So whenever you look at what we did last month, we kind of got into a lot of the detail, and this is going to look at how we kind of rank in different areas and rate compared to others across the state. So what you'll see now is kind of just the overall kind of clip for what we did individually at our schools for our overall rating. I do want to kind of point out that whenever we're looking through some of this data, we have to keep in mind that elementaries are ranked and rated one way. Middle schools have a different rating system, and the high school has different rating system too. So you'll see that Gray Court and Hickory Tavern have 2 report cards, because they get an elementary report card and also a middle school report card. So as we kind of have discussions, we'll look at different components of how the data affects an elementary report card versus a middle or a high school report card. So whenever you're looking at how we look at a state report card, these are components that are required by federal kind of guidance of how we're supposed to work within our state system to create a report card and kind of compile data for the public to be able to see and kind of get an idea. States have the kind of autonomy to how to develop this, but the components that are listed here are required by the feds. So whenever we're looking at the different components, whenever you see academic achievement, that is looking at test scores of ELA and math. And we'll kind of break this down a little bit more, but student progress is how you did from one year to another on ELA and math. And then you have preparing for success, which is science in elementary schools. In the high school, it's also the U.S. Is the end of course biology test. It will typically also have U.S. history in there. Then you have ELs, graduation rate, and college career ratings. Our state has a system of where you can earn no more than 100 points, and it's supposed to be on a 100-point scale. So you can see how the points are kind of allocated throughout. If you have more than 20, ELs are now multilingual learners now, they're called MLs now. You will have less points with some of those other sections, but you'll also have an EL system. So we'll look at how each one of these breaks down. So whenever you go to the State Department website, there is a website that you pull up. It'll have all the different categories over there. If you go to the district website, you will not have ratings. So they do not give you a rating for the overall district, but whenever you start looking at the individual schools, you will see the ratings for an overall and the subcategories that that school qualified to have. And then you can click on, drill down, find a lot of different ones. For example, if you clicked on that academic achievement one, you would pull up all the data that Ms. Abercrombie shared last month. But that was just looking at one of these little subgroups up here. Whenever you look at our overall state report card ratings, this was also provided in your packet. You'll be able to see how many of the total scores. In each section you can earn different scores on and how we rated on each one of those. And we'll kind of go into detail as we move forward. So who's typically included whenever we're looking at test scores, survey results, you know, whose scores count? So typically whenever you look at a student, whenever they enroll on the 45th day of school, which is what we just had, the 18th, we had 45 days in school. If they are enrolled on the 45th day and continue enrollment to the 160th day, we count them in our roll. And so their test scores count for us. So it's not somebody that comes and goes all year. You know, they have to be with us for that window of time. No break in enrollment. Also, there are opportunities or options for us to student not test them, so whenever they don't take the test, if there's some form of a medical reason that we can get them excluded, we'll do that. And also students who are not English proficient for the first 12 to 24 months whenever they enroll with us. So sometimes they'll talk about a 2-year window, sometimes we're looking at a 1-year window. So that's typically who is included whenever you're looking at test data, survey results, if they have been with you long enough. So what does the academic achievement look like and what does it include? Whenever we're looking at data last month, you heard a lot about does not meet expectations, approaches expectation, meets expectations, exceeds. You heard about A through F on Algebra 1, U.S. history, all those kind of things. So all those scores are utilized and are given a ranking. So if I was an exceeds, I get 3 points. If I was approaches, I get 1 point. And so the system takes everybody that scored how they took the test, gets an average, and then you get points based on your averages. So whenever you're looking at it, then they give you the different scale of, if I had 15 points for an elementary school, I would fall, if I had ELs, I would fall in the average category. So all that's kind of related back to kind of coming up with the average of each one of those subgroups and giving you a rating for academic achievement. So that's ELA and math. So that's basically that section of, we look at all SC ready scores and Algebra 1 and English 2 at the high school to come up with scores. All right, student progress. This is one that you can really get into the weeds with, because this one's very difficult to follow and to calculate on our side. But whenever you're looking at, and just say we could earn 40 points, this would be that I would have a school that did not have at least 20 EL students. So I'll be able to earn 40 points of growth in our schools. And this is one that you'll see whenever we're looking at our scores, we did pretty good at this year with our growth, because whenever you're looking at how you grew your kids, you have an opportunity to look at how all of your student population grew. And then you have to look at the bottom 20%, kind of that bottom quintile, to see how you grew your lowest kids in your building. And so you can get up to 20 points for all students, and you can get 20 points, up to 20 points for how you grew your low kids. And so whenever we're looking at that, that is only looking at kids that had a prior year test. So whenever you're looking at an elementary school, you only are looking at your 4th and 5th grade students here, because the 3rd graders didn't have a 2nd grade test to compare to. Whenever you get to the middle school, all those count. And remember, they have to be continuous enrolled. They have to have a prior test. So that's the kind of information you have to look at too. This is one of those that throws some type of index on top of it. It ranks every kid in the state, high to low, and then it compares student to student, as if I scored this level last year, how did everybody else with my same level grow, and how did I compare? So I can earn points based on how well I grew compared to everybody else in the state. So the growth one is based on how everybody else grew compared to how I grew, or how the school got you to grow that year. So that one's kind of all based on that, and then you're looking at how all the kids in the school grew and the lowest 20%. So those lowest 20% kids count twice in this growth. So they count in the all category, and they count in the bottom category. This is compared to statewide. So if I was does not meet in Lawrence 55, and I scored a scale score of 265, how did everybody else across the state scored in that range of like a 260 to a 270, and how they grew, and where I grew based on that, as if I dropped, or if I stayed a does not meet, or if I became an excellent, or meets expectation or exceeds expectation. And that's that positive and negative 6 kind of growth index that they throw on top of that. All right, and then they kind of throw that back onto the range and the average to see how many points you got for your growth, to give you an overall rating in that section for excellent satisfaction. So preparing for success is just like academic achievement, but it only looks at science. So this is, the feds require you to show ELA and math, and if you have other indicators to show academic growth, that's a separate category. So science is the preparing for success. Used to include the social studies, and whenever U.S. history gets kind of recalibrated, they'll begin using U.S. history again at the high school. But right now it was just 4th and 6th grade science and biology 1 at the high school for this year. And that was 10 points of our report card, calculated just like it was for academic achievement, with the does not meet gets 0 points, the exceeds gets 3 points. And the same type of rating for A through L. Multilingual. So when a student comes into our building and they do not speak English, or they don't have a fluent English speaker, or they're not, they'll get screened. So whatever their initial screener is, will then track them for 5 years to see where they need to be and if they have exited the EL program in 5 years. And so based on where they level, they give them a track of where they need to score by for to continue out of the program. If they test out in year 1, you get to count them every year because they should have been reaching their goal. Just because they reach it faster doesn't matter, you still get to count them each time. So that one's up to 10 points if you have more than 20 EL students in your building. Okay? It's not a percentage-wise. It is if you have at least 20 kids. Okay? It's one of those that they don't want to be able to, your end count has to be at least 20. So whenever it's more of a route so that you can't specifically identify who those kids are, that would have affected your score. So no assessment data is reported. So you may have gone into like Waterloo and saw a lot of subgroups that were left blank. That's because there weren't at least 20 in those subgroups. So any subgroup that's less than 20, they don't report data on. School climate. That one was 10 points for most schools, 5 points for the high school. But that one looks at teacher survey and student survey. So whenever you're looking at school climate, it's looking at the students and the teachers and how they are looking at, and that 20 points is on the wrong slide. That was supposed to be on the previous slide. So ignore the 20 points, all of 20. So what does the school climate data look at? The surveys that are come up, there's multiple questions that are compiled. They roll them all into, but student questions kind of are around safety and their environment. So do they feel safe? Do they think the bathrooms smell clean? You know, how do they feel inside the building? You know, so it kind of ranges anything from cleanliness to safety to the environment in general. Teachers, what are the instructional focus and the priorities in the building? They feel like that's strong. What is the safety in the building, and what are the working conditions? So those 5 components between students and safety and teachers are combined together to come up with a score for school climate. And then it was also thrown into a scale for each one of those schools. Graduation rate at the high school, we scored average. So this one is basically take your graduation rate, divide by 2, and subtract 50 and divide by 2, and then that's where you rank if you have more than, if you have a group with MLs. And so we do. So we're basically right at 80%, which gets us an average. If we get to 82.101, we'll be a good. So we're only 2 percentage points for graduation rate away from a good at the high school. Career and college readiness. This is one that looks at how can you be college ready, how can you be career ready. College ready looks at your ACT, SAT, AP scores, and also if you have dual enrollment, can count you as college ready. Career ready looks at CTE completers if they also have a credential, silver, gold, or platinum on ACT or WIN, ASVAB score of 31, some improved work-based learning, and also the South Carolina High School Employability Credential all count for career ready. And those are combined together. Everybody counts at least once. So you look at your entire graduation cohort, and whenever you're looking at that, then what's the percent of kids that are college or career ready whenever they graduate. So that's basically all the different categories. Whenever you're looking at how the state report card is compiled, looking at each one of those sections up there, and you can see how we scored over the course of the year. At your place, some data was requested for how the WEPEC schools and across our district did over the last 5 years. We had 2 years that were not reported, so you did not have a score for 2020 or 2021, but you have 2018 and 19 and 2022, and you can see how schools kind of compared from over the last 5 years. Questions that you have about any of the sections or any of the calculations about for our state report card? components on the state report card that you've looked at that didn't make sense, that you had questions about, just while you've been clicking and surfing?
I have a question about the SAT scores and the AP testing. So the data shows that we're testing less. So on the SAT, it says we only tested 33%, and that was down significantly from 2019, where it says we tested 52.1%. And then on AP, 2019, we tested 171 students, and in 2022, we tested 72 students.
Couple of different reasons
Yeah,
for that
what's
data.
going on there?
So, several years ago, we were required to give AP or SAT to every student in the building. Okay, so they had to be offered both. And so whenever it was kind of required that everybody take one or the other, that's when your percentage of participants increased. The ACT or SAT had to be offered, and you had to try to get every single child to take it. Okay, so that's when you have a really high percentage of takers. Now it's not required. We're required to offer, but it's not required to try to get everybody to take. And so that's going to be more geared to those students that are four-year takers. That are really looking to get into a four-year program. A lot of our kids already know that they're going to go to more technical school. They'll take the ASVAB if they're going military. So you have different options, and our counselors really try to do a better job of trying to identify which test is best for those kids. ACT is a little bit more mind zone, kind of logical, more thinking test. SAT is a very content-based test. So you have different options for different kids, and some people just prefer one or the other. So did that answer your SAT question?
Yes.
Good. Okay. So AP testers is all based on how many sections make for AP. So whenever we're looking at how often if we only have one or twos sign up for an AP course, we don't always let those sections make if you have very small numbers. So enrollment and kind of requests for AP classes have declined over the years too. To be able to actually get credit for that class, you have to make a 3 on the assessment to be able to get the college credit. A lot of our kids are kind of selecting dual enrollment over AP because if you pass the class with a C or better, you get that college credit no matter what. So it's more of a insurance of a college credit over the AP level course.
So two thoughts there. One, do we have the numbers that show the dual enrollment has increased at the same amount that the AP testing has decreased? And I know that AP offerings have been a topic of conversation on a few different times, so I don't know that I think that there's many students that still want to take AP classes, but there was an issue this year with middle college interfering, and so I want to make sure that we're not decreasing our offerings for AP, and that we're really trying to expand those offerings versus decreasing.
And I will say the situation where there were some conflicts, I do believe that the high school was able to make arrangements so that all of the students, AP and the middle college, were able to take the courses that were requested. So
Right.
it took some changes of the scheduling,
Right.
but they definitely made that happen so that we could offer the AP classes as well as the dual enrollment.
And one of the things with that scheduling we do try to do is if you can combine the honors level course of, if it's calculus, you might have calculus AB taught at the same time as calculus honors. So those kids that are wanting the AP opportunity, they're still in there with a high level calculus class. So the teacher is not burdened with teaching two totally different levels.
Right.
They just have a little bit different expectation based on the content they're teaching. It is in here somewhere, and I thought I knew exactly where it was, but there is a level in there of the dual enrollment, because we have to report that also
Okay.
with the number of students that participate in dual enrollment.
And and I know separately this question was asked, but I just want to give an opportunity to be addressed here. The prime instructional time for the high school
Yes, ma'am.
showed a pretty low number, and we think maybe that was a data point error. So is that something that you guys can get corrected so our report card reflects it properly?
That is a human error keying issue of, we had 150 employees, so then you multiply by that by the number of days that they work, and so based on that you would multiply that by 190 days, which ended up with around 20, I don't know, anyways, whatever, I can't remember what that math ended up being, but we ended up with 28,000 absences being made versus, so whenever, instead of 1,400 absences, it was 28,000 absences. So that did reduce the prime instructional time down to 20-something%. So we have requested from the state to see if they're doing updates on some of those data pools. That's one of those things that we do through a summer survey and teacher attendance survey, which is hand keyed by us on site. So that's one of those pieces of data that was just miskeyed.
It would just, I mean, you know, mistakes
looks bad,
happen, of course,
Right.
but
It didn't
if we could
affect
get
our
it
ratings,
corrected
but
on the
whenever you start
website,
looking
that
at
would be
data,
nice.
that's like, whoa, okay, definitely,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay,
The only thing I had to
go ahead.
did you see anything in the column, did you go back on the slide, that is district-wide? For instance, on every school climate, something
Okay.
that you hear us building on, quite a bit.
And I'll take my data stance that I can tell you the good, I can tell you the bad, I can spin it one way or the other. So a couple of things that you do see is that you'll see whenever I look at, because for me, I did a red-green chart of being able to see highs, lows, and that kind of stuff, and through some conditional formatting on it. To be able to see where you did see some of those commonalities. You do see, and I'll start with the good, you start with student progress. There are a lot of averages and goods. You know, that was a lot of a green column for me. You know, whenever you start looking at school climate and somewhat our academic achievement, whenever you're looking at overall ELA and math, those are below average in a lot of situations, and a couple of unsatisfactories with school climate. We've dug deep, as Dr. Thomas was talking, with our principals and looking at our data, looking at where those numbers are. But even though our academic achievement is low, we had great progress. You know, so whenever we start low, but we're not as low, we may not have jumped levels, but we're not as far away from the next level as we were. So that student progress really has helped us kind of the overall, that it might take us 2 years to jump levels, but we're on the way to jumping. Whenever you're looking at school climate, you know, those are based on how people feel the day they took it. You know, so whenever they're looking at that data, what did they feel like, you know, that day? You know, were they upset with the administrator? Was there a fight or something discipline-wise the day before? You know, what are those kind of situations around? You know, we didn't have a big party and give everybody donuts and pizza the day before, maybe. You know, so what kind of helps kind of influence that may or may not be something that we knew the day that we were given that survey. But there are some things that we'll dig down deep into because we get the results of those. And there are some issues that people aren't happy. There's people that, you know, are very happy at some schools, you know. So what are those issues and instances that we can address? And that's what we've been working on a lot with school climate this year. The parent is not included because it's very hard to ensure that you get a certain percentage of parent responses. And so that was one of those things. We still look at that, but that's not included in the rating. Yeah. And you don't know how many times we push it out. It's science. 4th grade science, 6th grade science. So your elementary 4th grade science, in your 6th grade middle school science, and your high school biology. It
And
is,
math.
and we know that math,
Sure.
yeah, we know math and science are areas, hence we try to do a lot more STEM nights, a lot more STEM activities. We're really focusing on the implementation of our new HMH in the math and that type of thing. So we're really trying to push and provide our teachers a lot more professional development and learning that they can use.
You know, we've had, I've spoken with someone in another district who they actually have a STEM classroom in their K through 5 schools that is on rotation, like an activity at, you know, like PE and art and music. And one day a week they do a STEM class rotation.
We've already had a vendor in. I don't know if you want to talk about we've worked with a vendor of some opportunities that we have, but it's money, to be able to provide that, and then throwing it into the rotation. That's a teacher, so we need to look at what type of levels of commitment we're able to make and where we're able to push. And whenever we start identifying those gaps and holes, that's definitely the. You want to share the opportunities that people may want to give money to?
Sure. That is definitely something that we have discussed as a district as far as that being an opportunity. It's something that we've done previously at some of our schools where we actually had where the students would rotate through the science class lab. And so we've talked about that as an option too as we're planning to help improve in this area. But we've also looked at having our STEM classrooms, and we had our lunch and learn. Can't remember the exact date right off, but we did have a lunch and learn, and we had different business partners to come to be a part of that as well, like Michelin, as well as some other partners, to try to see how we might could work together and how we could also get some sponsorship as well as we're looking at trying to add that and to have that staff, that teacher, but also in the national teacher shortage, trying to find the teachers who would be able to fill that job and that capacity as well. So we've definitely had those conversations, and we're looking into that as a viable option for something that we can do in the district. So we're still having discussions about that.
Dr. Finley, I have one other question regarding the state report card. On the report card, it lists so many different things. Students enrolled in CATE centers, people that are graduating, with CATE certificates. Talks about percentages of students from the prior year that are enrolled in 2 or 4 year colleges or technical colleges. It has a lot of additional information part. Where are we as a district, and I'm not sure why the state report card doesn't capture any of this, but where are we as a district in our special ed students and knowing what are they doing after graduation, and are they employed, and what percentage are employed?
To my knowledge, there's not a great data collection for that population to know what their next subgroup is. Whenever we get the freshman report is what part of that's called, of how many of those kids that graduated from us prior year are in a 4-year program and are successfully completing that. That's one of those pieces of data that we get from freshmen, whenever they leave us, if they're leaving us with the workforce credential, we know that they're career ready, that kind of stuff, but we don't really have a great way to track kids outside of a freshman report of where they land. Whenever we have our gear up and their 7th year and they're tracking all kids, there's somebody there making that phone call of saying, where are you, what are you doing, to be able to track where those kids are. But for every other year, there's not a great way or a great system to say, you landed at here working, or you're no longer there after 6 months. We might have an initial of where you went, but we don't have a great way because we have that kind of correspondence back with colleges, and they have to submit that. So that's how we get a freshman report, is through a federal database. So beyond that, we don't have that data.
Just seems like it would be a great piece of information to know how we're preparing those students for life
You
beyond
know,
high
we
school.
might have something that would be, Voc Rehab might track some of that data, but it's not a district-wide, to be able to compare, the level of placement and the level of success beyond that.
And just looking back at the handout, I didn't have a chance to look at it in depth, but I would love to have seen the 2019 versus the 2022, because I think that would have been a good show of classification as to how everything was. But since it's not like that, and I'm gonna have to go back and try to look at it accordingly,
2019 is included.
in here?
On your small print.
On the-
It's
No.
on that
it's
data.
Yeah,
on
that's what I'm saying. I
yeah.
just glanced at it, and that's why I said 2019 is pretty good. And I would love to have seen 2019 and 2022, since 2020 and 2021 didn't really, you know, it was still doing the COVID part of it.
This slide.
It's-
2019.
This slide? I thought this slide was only 2022.
I think in prior data, we shared a change from 19 to 22. We didn't show a change from 18 to 22. I think that's what you're saying, right?
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But anyway, what are we going to do to get our students back on track? I guess that's one
Yes,
of my
that's a
ultimate
great
concerns, and does this really reflect the level of readiness of our students? I just had some concerns about that, but more importantly, what are we going to do to get our students back on track? I know we've done several things that Ms. Abercrombie referred to last month, and I'm just concerned about that because it's hard, it's heavy on my heart.
Right. Well, and I will say, as I stated earlier during my report, a lot of our scores are higher than they were in 2017 and in 2018. So we're definitely moving in the right direction, because not at all schools and not at all grade levels, but we did reach above our pre-pandemic stages. So that means that what we're doing, we're moving in the right direction. We're definitely working on, we realize that we can't just have average growth or do just a year's growth, because of our starting point was so low, even going back to 2017. So we're having to gain that ground back, not to mention just living through the global pandemic. So we have a lot of things in place. We're working very closely as an administrative team when we're looking at the data. We're looking at our data stories. And so we're going in, we're doing instructional learning walks and creating action plans. And within those action plans, that is where we're determining what support is needed for teachers, whether we are providing whisper coaching, where we're in the classrooms and we're not waiting. We're providing that feedback right then and there on ways that we can enhance that instruction in active time versus waiting to the end of the day. But we want the effect to be right there when the instruction is happening. And so we have a lot of those things that we're talking about from just an instructional standpoint, where we are really looking at our data. We have several schools that have been identified as deep data dived schools, and that's where we are going in. We also have an NIET specialist who's going in to help provide support to teachers, to instructional coaches, as well as to administrators. So there's a lot of different things that we have in place, as well as we're working on our strategic plan as well, when we're developing those work plans, which I think is a piece that was really missing from before. And so although we didn't have the impact that we had hoped, we did have impact, and we're making progress. And so I think with having that added piece of actually having those actionable work plans that can help lead and guide our work, then we're moving in the right direction. We'll continue to do so. We've talked about recruitment and retention of highly qualified, high quality staff. And we really feel that that is really key, providing support, coaching the staff that we have, and actually retaining our high quality staff and being able to recruit that high quality staff as well. And that is where we're going to make the biggest difference in our schools. We are also looking at, we have a substitute report that we get, and we still, although this is post-pandemic, but we're still dealing with so many things that are related to the pandemic. For example, absences. We still have a very high rate of absences, and we're having a very difficult time finding substitutes. Our fill rate, I think, is probably about 45% maybe. And so with that, we're having to combine classes, put classes in common spaces. We're having to cover classes as well with different staff members. So we're working on those areas as well, ways that we can get some of our retired teachers in to serve as substitutes, certified teachers to come to this area and want to be here. So we're looking at things as well as like substitute pay, just overall pay, and just different incentives of what we can do to attract and retain our high quality staff. So we're definitely constantly discussing, looking at it. I think really diving deep into the data, identifying those specific students. And what we are receiving now, we have those growth targets that we just received, but we're looking at that data as well to help create a plan for each student. We've talked with the administrators as well. Dr. Bailey mentioned this earlier in his report, to where we're doing goal setting with all of the students and setting those goals to help them take that ownership and help them move along and progress as well. So we have a lot of different things in place as we're really using the data to drive our instruction and really providing professional development and support for our staff as well.
Because when I think about like forecasting our demographics that we're looking at now, as well as what we see in our school report card, our schools sometimes can be our saving grace, and then again, it could be a deterrent for anybody who's moving into the district. And I think about that, again, that's my forward thinking. So that's something we've got to really work on, about how we're going to, our ratings to be improved. And I do appreciate that, you know, coming up, because that's of vital importance. You just want to make sure everybody is getting the best.
Right,
I
absolutely.
really want to.
And that's
Yeah.
definitely
And
what
I want it to be reflective, you know, in our students and everything, because I worry about the future as far as them and readiness once they hit their workforce. And I'm so ready for a CAPE program or whatever, so we can, you know, I think that school climate has a lot to do with it. And I think that parents should be included, but I know they're not, teachers and the students. And I'm thinking, what can we do? What are they saying? What are they wanting? What, you know, just how can we get that improved? That makes sense.
Right. Yes, ma'am. And again, although the parent data is not included on the report card, that is data that we receive and we do look at. And so through that, we look at different areas that we may be able to provide some improvements based on the information that we've been given. As Dr. Penland stated, there's a lot of bathrooms, cleanliness of bathrooms. And I think that has been that way like year after year after year. And I know that in the schools, there's a plan for cleaning restrooms, but sometimes with older facilities, sometimes it's just really hard to really get that to really appear and smell as though it's clean and fresh. Mm-hmm. And so it's definitely something that we will continue to try to improve and work on as well.
Do you have any other questions about the school report card?
I know we get a lot of data from our testing, but are there any redundant tests that we can eliminate to increase that time, recovery time? I get my ear bent quite a bit about Raleigh. They're spending so much time testing, and it pulls the certified teacher away to test the individual student. I hear that, and it makes a whole large part of each day to get the testing done. So I don't know, have we looked at, is there any district tests that we can step back on or consolidate to increase that time?
We have done some calibration and coherence mapping to kind of determine and to look at the redundancy. And we have actually decreased some of the testing this current school year. And so we're continuing to look at that. A lot of the testing is required and mandated by the state. So, you know, there's a lot of cases where it definitely seems like we're testing a lot, but it's required and we have to do it. But we've really tried to eliminate any additional testing that we could. And so that's definitely something that we've looked at and worked on to try to improve this year.
no other questions, we'll go into the next item on the agenda, which will be school board policies. Did kind of want to mention a couple of things about these. I'm bringing to you four for first reading. BBBD, board member removal from office. IMDA, patriotic exercises. IMBD, flag motto and displays. JQ, student fees, fines, and charges. On the board member removal from office, this one is coming from a legal reference that was amended to section 59-1960. That was kind of updated and amended this year by the governor. Whenever you're looking at the patriotic exercises, that's IMDA. This is a new policy to us, but it was also a lot of things that were already in law or statutes that we needed to recognize during the school year. Whenever you're looking at IMDB, the flag motto displays, we already had a flag display policy. This is also adding the mottos of In God We Trust and the South Carolina official motto, While I Breathe I Hope, and then the other South Carolina motto, Prepared in Mind and Resources. And those are also referenced in some changes in the amendments of 59-19.
Dr. Phelan, you said patriotic exercise is a new policy. Like I remember going to Veterans Day programs when my girls were younger. Are some of these things activities that we're already doing?
Right. A lot of these were things that we were already doing, but there was never a policy around the requirement of the Veterans Day, but there was a kind of a piece of legislation that said that we had it. They've added the Patriotic Day, and a couple years ago the Constitution and Citizenship Day. But then this just kind of solidifies in policy all the things in legislation that the school board has kind of clarified for us, that we don't have to go around picking it out of all the different pieces of legislation and put it in one spot for us. And then the last one, student fines and fees and charges. This one really doesn't affect us a lot because we are a CEP district, which is community eligibility, so nobody really pays for lunch, but this basically just puts in there that we can't send to a collection agency for meals. Any questions about first reading? Sure. It's whenever you're looking at each one of those, it's going to be different. So Patriotic Day basically says that you will observe Patriotic Day on September the 11th in remembrance of the victims of the September 11th tragedy. Then whenever you have, like whenever we did Veterans Day, it tells you that you got to have a program recognizing veterans either on the day of Veterans Day or the Monday following. So it just kind of puts in kind of clarification of what you're to do in remembrance of those days, each one of those. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fenlon. Okay, we need to do our South Carolina School Board Association delegate assembly votes. At this point, I think that Mr. Varner and I are the two that are signed up to go down for the conference. So either one of us can do the vote while we're there. We can just send one person in. So we would just need somebody to nominate. We need to vote on this, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, we need to delegate one of you as the voter, one as the alternate.
As the alternate, okay.
But it does require board action.
Doesn't matter.
I make a motion to
got a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor? Mr. Patterson? Thank you. Okay, so, Mr. Garner and I will attend the delegate assembly, and I will go as the delegate and he'll go as the alternate. So, Ms. Wilson, I'll sign this stuff and get it to you after the meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have, Mr. Lawless for our monthly financial report.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Each of you should have received a copy of the financial report for the month of September. Our balance for the treasurer as of the end of September was $10,078,177. Our fiscal year-to-date revenues for the first quarter for the general fund were $7,922,109. General fund expenses for the same period, $8,286,368, for a difference of negative $364,259. Tax collection for the month of September were $341,543. Anybody have any questions about the financial report before we move to the next item? Okay.
Thank you.
As you are aware, Lawrence 55 entered into an agreement with Synergistic in an effort to reduce utility costs to the district. The implementation team from Synergistic was in the district on Thursday of last week for program kickoff. We were introduced to the individuals that will be our direct contacts as we get the program up and running. We've begun gathering the information that they will be using to establish the baseline of usage. The consultant from Synergistic worked with us directly on Thursday. She'll be back in the district tomorrow, and she will be working with us until we are able to get our own energy specialist hired and trained. That's where we are right now, so we're just at the beginning phases of it, but so far so good. Anybody have any questions about that?
What's the timeline on getting the energy specialist hired? Like, what's the goal?
Yeah, it's fun.
Thank you.
Anything else? Yes, sir.
He said yes.
The program that they use provides that information on a nearly constant stream, so we will be able to provide that information. Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lawless. Ms. Wilson, do we have anyone sign up for public participation?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And now, Mr. Hughes.
So moved.
Do we have a second to adjourn? All those in favor? Mr. Patterson? Thank you. We're adjourned.
Could we do a workshop with the rest of your colleagues from the other eight?
We will.
I'll get that worked out, sir. Thank you so much. You already go.